So recently, I got to do an independent author event at a local bookstore, and so I kind of want to talk about how that even came up. How does one even get these things set up? What does a local indie author event look like? And just are they actually worth your time and successful? I am rather lucky in that I have a local bookstore chain called Half Price Books, which is very happy to host independent authors such as myself. And so the way it works is I just called up my local Half Price Books, told them my name, told them I was an independent author, told them I wanted to schedule an independent author event. The woman on the phone transferred me to her manager, who sets those things up. He came on, was very pleasant, asked me about my books, asked me kind of what time and date I was looking for, and we set up a time and date, which as of this recording was this past Saturday from 1 to 4. So on the day of the event, I showed up about 5-10 minutes early to get things set up. So I have a box with about 35 books in it, 20 books of Auricula Academy, Wave of Courage, my upcoming book, and then about 15 leftover copies of Legend of Samantha Torres that I had from previous author events as well. In addition to that, I had a little stand I wrote my name, local indie author, on it. I wrote that I'm selling both of my books for $10 each, cash, and I have a little QR code for Venmo as well. And then I have a big thing that says free bookmarks, because I also brought a bunch of bookmarks and stickers to give away. And I also brought a tablecloth, because they just give you like a folding table, and so I have a tablecloth just to make things look a little bit nicer, right? So I showed up, sat there for 3 hours, chatted with people as they came in, said hello, all that kind of stuff. So in that time frame, 3 hours, I sold a total of 9 books, or basically like 3 books per hour, I guess, although it didn't work out that way. And that doesn't sound like a lot, because like numerically, it isn't necessarily. But you have to consider when you're doing these sorts of events, right? One, you're doing them at a local bookstore, which means that there might not be a lot of people walking in and out, depending on the day, depending on the time of day. You may not have a lot of people coming in and out of that store to begin with. And also, not everyone who's entering the store is necessarily going to be your target audience, right? For example, I write children's, right? Middle grade fiction. If anyone is like, I'd say probably ages 16 and up, they're probably not going to be interested in my book, right? That's understandable. Same with if someone's walking in and their kids are only like maybe ages like 4, 4 and under, they're probably not going to be interested in my book either, right? My book is middle grade, so that's ages like 7 to 13, right? That's kind of the sweet spot for the target audience. So all things considering, selling 9 books, that's great. Like, I consider that a win. And I think that just plays into being an independent author in general, is you have to manage your expectations. I've read stories online, posts on Facebook and Reddit of people who purchase like 100 copies of their books to sell at these sorts of events, and then get very upset when people aren't buying any of them, or when they don't sell all of them in that single event for 2-3 hours. And I think that's just unrealistic expectations. Again, I think this just plays into being an indie author in general, or even just being an author in general, is you have to manage your expectations. Understand that, yes, while I would love to make a living purely off of writing these books, that's not going to happen, right? Not going to quit my day job, honestly, unless I really got like super big. I probably would still be teaching anyways, because I love teaching. But the point is, you have to manage your expectations. For me, selling 9 books in 3 hours, fantastic. Like, that to me is an absolute win there. Because I almost made back all of the money I spent purchasing copies of Auricula Academy. So for me, I'm walking away from this extremely happy. I think the other thing too is not to necessarily look at this as purely a sales thing. And just have fun with it. Like, at one point, I had probably a 5-10 minute conversation with this lovely gentleman who really just wanted to talk to me about this book he's been reading since the 80s. That's like this giant omnibus on World War II. Had nothing to do with my books. He was not interested in my books at all. He just wanted someone to talk to about this book he's been reading for like 40 years. And it was a delightful conversation. That was really fun, And even like on kind of a flip side of that, like, I had this lovely interaction with this young girl who probably couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old, who was super nervous to talk to someone who was an author, was delighted to get a copy of my books and was shocked to find out that she could get more than one bookmark. Like genuinely didn't think that that was like even an option in the world. I can have two bookmarks. It was delightful. And so I think especially with these sorts of indie author events, like that for me is what I go into it for, is just the conversations and just the interactions you get to have with other people, because you're in a bookstore. Those people are probably there who like books. And so just getting to interact with people who like books, even if it's not your books, that's fine. At the end of the day, what I think is best practice for these indie author events is that if you have a local bookstore that's willing to host you, and hopefully they're happy about it, like Half Price Books is with me, is don't go into it expecting to sell 100 books. Go into it expecting that you will get to interact with other people who love to read books, and that some of them might just happen to be willing to read yours.